Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Right, now we're together. So, Nuala, you are involved with an organisation called Comprehensive Future. And I know you also do some teaching at and research at King's College London, particularly post-16 education, I think, is a particular area of interest of yours.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about this organisation, Comprehensive Education, and how you got involved in it.
Yeah. So Comprehensive Future was actually organised, was set up around 2002, 2003, way before I arrived, actually. And I'd started a doctorate in selective processes at sixth form. It seems a long way around, but through this, I got involved in selection, informal, formal selection. And I ended up going to an event, and it was Comprehensive Future, and was really interested. I had never understood fully the impact of the 11 plus on in so many different ways, and the advantage that could be brought by the middle classes. Anyway, this event opened my eyes, and to cut a long story short, I ended up joining them. I then got an internship, which was funded. I was allowed 3 months to work with someone, a group, a company, that I could do for them. They'd get free 3 months research from me. I get 3 months, if you like, experience as part of my doctorate. Now, selective processes at 11 do feed into selective processes at plus 16 and all the rest of it. So I asked Comprehensive Future, hey, why don't I come and do some research for you? We'll work together. You get to use my research project, and I'm actually doing some good work, but it's funded and it's totally free for you. So that's kind of how I ended up getting involved in Comprehensive Future. I should have left, if you like, after the internship, but then, how do you leave in the middle of all that? It was great work, a fantastic team involved. And then it was chaired by Melissa Benn in those days. I ended up working with them, being on the steering committee, and to cut a long story short, 2019, I was elected chair. So it's been a bit of a journey, and it kind of grew. My involvement grew, and my knowledge of the 11 plus grew. I'm going to confess to you, Carl, I didn't know half of it. I didn't know half of it when I joined Comprehensive Future.
I don't think a lot of people would. Would it be fair to say that for a lot of people in the country, grammar schools are something of a historical footnote?
Yeah, an anomaly. Yeah, definitely. And we do find that. In fact, when I was doing my research for Comprehensive Future, I went to selective Bucks, non-selective Hampshire, 2 counties, to compare their outcomes and experiences of GCSEs. All right. This was the idea. This was how we were going to look at the impact, if you like, of the 11 plus experiences and outcomes. And people in Hampshire, I actually met parents who were staggered, who were saying to me, what? They do the 11 plus in Buckinghamshire? What? On top of SATs and that? I got stories. I can tell you the anecdotes. They can go on and on. But people were staggered. They thought it had gone with the arc, So I had to say, no, there are still selective counties. And I have to tell you, a lot of parents were stunned by it. So it is something you have to remind people that it's still around. And I think what's frightening is popularity had dropped, but I think it's gaining again. And I have my other ideas and theories about why the 11 plus and grammar schools are gaining popularity in some quarters. But yeah, people do need telling. They do need it explained to them. They need to explain the impact of the 11 plus, what a grammar school in one area does to other schools in the same location. People need to be educated. I needed it, Carl, and I'm not, I'm not too bad. I've got a few exams under my belt, but I needed educating.
Yeah. So well, educators away, because this is obviously really interesting to get into. So you when you say that you notice that you think there might be an increased interest in grammar schools, and that more popular in recent years in the areas where they still exist. What theories do you have about why that might be?
I'm thinking it's hard. I mean, I don't. This is just instinct, gut,
Mm,
anecdotal, but
mm,
I think it's an anxiety about an education system that we are not investing in.
no.
Now, I'm not a parent, as it happens. I've looked after lots of kids. I've taught. I've done lots of things. I did theatre with children and teenagers. But I do know one thing, that when you are a parent, you want the best for your child.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody tells you that there are certain schools that are better than other schools. It is not unfair. It is not unnatural for a parent to think,
No.
I want the best for my kid. And this is what happens. So you get a school, grammar school, it's got a certain status. Let's be honest with you. Grammar school, if you're not going to a posh private school, grammar school is the next best thing, right? And then it's graded outstanding by Ofsted. You know, you're a parent. You're not actually in education yourself. You know, it's natural, isn't it, to choose these? And I think a lack of investment in public education recently has made it harder for people to choose good. I mean, I know for a fact there are great comps out there, outstanding comps. You don't need them. But in certain areas where grammar schools exist, the story is, the marketing will tell you that the grammar schools are the better schools. Now, a parent is going to choose the better school. I honestly believe if we could get our public education, our state education system sorted, we wouldn't need grammar schools. There wouldn't need to be the idea that I need to go to a better school, because we would invest and there'd be more quality in schools. You and I know there are fabulous comps out there,
Absolutely.
fabulous non-selective schools that are doing outstanding work, but they don't get the kind of, what's the word, the press, the
No.
accolades, the badges, you know, they don't get the fanfare that blinking grammar schools do. It's just so unfair. But so I think it would need, I mean, you know, if I were, you know, if we could wave a magic wand card, wouldn't that be nice? We need to invest properly in our education system so that every school in every area is brought up, and then we'll have quality, equality, equity, and equality. Yeah.
So is that just the answer then, Nuala? Is it just a question of allow grammar schools to continue to exist in the areas of the country where they do exist, but just invest more in state education, comprehensive education, I should say, and then that'll take care of itself, and grammar schools will just fade away. Do you think that's how it will work?
No. I mean, if I don't, the problem is, I think it's something unique to England. Look, they don't have grammar schools in Scotland and Wales, and they
No.
manage quite well without them, right?
Mm.
Northern Ireland is another matter. We know that, but there's all sorts of social issues to do with historic divisions with faith and social class. So let's leave Northern Ireland just for now. No disrespect to Northern Ireland. The thing is, if you've got anything that exists that can be hooked onto, if you have public schools, private schools, grammar schools, you've got the idea that there is something other, something posher, if you like, something. I think it's dangerous to have any differences like that. Personally, I just think we do what the rest of Europe does. We invest properly in decent, comprehensive education, comprehensive schools throughout. I mean, once you start bringing in a choice here and a choice there, you muddy it. I just think make things simple. Do what they do in most parts of the world, quite frankly, and just have a decently funded public education. I mean, I know Canada has managed, Alberta, you probably know about this, Carl.
Yeah.
Alberta successfully managed to do, I think they're brilliant. And I mean, perhaps we should look at models like Canada, where you have quite a mixed school type, but it is a more democratic process. We have school councils, we have rotating heads, so there's no idea of kind of personalities and charisma and things driving the success of one school. There's no league tables. They don't have the punitive inspection process like Ofsted. Canada, Alberta has managed it, even though they've got choice of schooling, which is really, really interesting. Personally, I just wonder whether we'd ever manage it in England. I feel we're too wedded to all sorts of issues like social class and things like that. I just think, get rid of it all. Get rid of it. We'd have to start again. Okay, here we go again. Another fantasy. Like Finland did in 72. Scrap it. Start again. Invest properly and give every kid a good local school. There's just no, you can't fiddle with the edges. We've tried it. You can't. And I do think that school choice is a problem. I do. Let's make it easy for parents. If every parent had a decently funded, good local school, we wouldn't need parent choice, would we?
No. Well, no, that's it. If every school is offering what any reasonable parent would
Yeah.
want and need,
Yeah.
then choice is not necessary, is it? And so
That's
what?
exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we don't have to have it. The
no,
minute you put in choice, it's because we know why we have choice in England, because of the market. There's a market. And the idea is competition and choice. And the
yeah,
idea is that choice will apparently drive up standards. Well, that has not worked, actually.
no,
We know that. And ironically, for all this, that more or less, good comps can produce just as good results.
mm,
Just because you select and you group and all the rest of it, you don't get such outstanding results that make all this structure necessary. We
mm,
can do it, but we'd have, instead of investing in military warfare and all the rest of it, we just invest in our education and health. I mean, I'm coming across like I know everyone, the old lefty, but for goodness sakes,
yeah,
education is a public good. It shouldn't be a competition. It shouldn't be a market.
no,
We don't do this with our hospitals, do we? We
no,
don't put league table. We're trying to, I know, but we shouldn't. This is a
no,
public good. There are some things in our society that
yeah,
everyone deserves. We've all paid into. Why are we making it, in fact, that some people get better than others? I can't
mm,
see it, Carl. I
mm.
have a blind spot with this.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
Hey teachers, it's Tom here from Teachers Talk Radio, just dropping in to tell you about Teachers Talk Connect 2026. We are back with our amazing big annual CPD and networking extravaganza in Manchester. It's on Saturday, the 14th of March, and tickets are completely free for teachers. Just head over to ttradio.org/Connect 2026 to grab your ticket today. We can't wait to see you there.
Evidently.
Well, Lula, I want to press you a little bit more on this because I think you get into the heart of the issue, and it to an extent relates not just to the question of phasing out grammar schools, but the question of how the admissions process works in state schools and how we have set up state schools to be. So what effectively you're saying is that the marketization of education, and leave the whole question of private schools out of it just for a minute.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Actually, it's another fight, isn't it? It's another battle. Yeah.
It's another battle again. But the marketization of education has led to inequity, inequality, and it's not driven standards up. So in other words, competition in this particular case, because it's a public good, competition isn't working. It's actually working against the public interest. Is that what you're saying?
You've said it beautifully, far better, more concisely than me, but it is. That's exactly what's happening. The irony is that with market and competition, we're creating more inequality in our schooling. We know this because but it's the middle classes who buy advantage then, isn't it?
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
can move house or tutor their children, and they're the ones who are able to take advantage of a market
Yeah.
much more so than those who are less affluent, or for whatever reason just don't have the time, the knowledge, the energy to try and negotiate and navigate all that you need to know to put your kid in a better school, or even the resources to travel to a better school. So yes, yeah, but you put it much better than me, Carl.
Not at all. I had the benefit of having heard you explain it through first, so that's the thing. But so there's lots here to unpack. You talked a lot about other countries and other
Mm,
ways of doing things. I'm
mm.
just interested, can you educate those listening a little bit more on this question? Are you aware of any other, shall we say, developed countries that operate a system where at 11 there is an exam which determines which type of school you go to?
No,
No.
honestly, no. We are unique.
Mm,
England is unique. Scotland doesn't. As I've said before, it's not just are we the
mm,
only country in the world who's doing it. I'm not
mm.
saying there aren't countries that run their own tests to get kids into schools, but this idea that there's a universal test and you pass or fail and then that's it, your education is determined for the next whatever years. You know what I mean? No,
Yeah.
Europe definitely. Developed
Mm,
world, I can't find. Even Singapore doesn't do it. They have other competitions and other
sure.
ways of competing. No, no,
Okay.
because actually, sorry, Carl, but any
No, please
educator,
go for it.
anyone with a modicum of intelligence and education knows.
Mhm.
I mean, what were you like at 10? Seriously, do you know what I mean? And everybody knows that a kid sitting a test at 10 is not the same person,
Well,
at what, 14, 16, 18, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
well,
It's
I'm a
bonkers.
curious
It's
case.
bonkers.
I have a curious cut on this, Nuala, because I was in Leicestershire as a child, and
Yeah,
Leicestershire was the
yeah.
first authorities that moved over to comprehensive education, and I happened to take an 11 plus, and
Right.
against my better judgment, apparently passed it.
Yeah.
But then I
Yes.
didn't go. I went to a comprehensive school.
Yes.
They were
Yes.
switching. So although I, in
Do you know
theory, got
why? Can I ask you? Sorry to interrupt you, Carl,
mm,
but did you do you know why? Did your parents choose for you to go to the comp? Did you want to go with your mates? What was it? Do you remember that process
yeah,
or
well,
not? I'm interested.
only up to a point. What I remember is that my parents just assumed that I would go to the local secondary school,
Right.
and it was
Yes.
newly built, so there was a bit of
Yes.
interest in it because it was
Yes.
a newly built comprehensive school, and that was all very,
Yes. And very yes.
you know.
Yes. Yes.
And so they sent me just to that because that was a natural thing. Now I was the youngest in my family. My eldest sister is quite a bit older than me, and
Yeah.
she went to a grammar school because at that time the system very much still operated, whereas I went to a comprehensive school.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
actually, my sister did very well and had a good professional career, and but I like to think I've done the same. So actually,
Yeah.
there's
I
been
think so,
no
Carl. I think
difference
yeah.
between, the two. So that's an interesting cut in its own right, from my own
Mm.
experience. But so no country in the world that you're aware of, a developed
That's
country,
right. And if
and
someone knows, please, will they tell us? Email Comprehensive Future. You can, Google us. Let us know. It's just, we are unique.
mm,
No other country needs to do this. There are other ways. I know people shouting at the at the radio,
mm,
whatever it is they're shouting at their
yeah,
phones. I
yeah,
know countries have selection for technical vocational education,
sure,
for example. The Netherlands will do that, and certainly other countries do. And in Norway, but it's more a choice, or you're steered or
mm,
helped to make your choice. But I'm talking about this idea of a definitive pass-fail test, and that's
mm,
it. Your
mm.
schooling then is decided.
Because
No,
we
no.
do, we do have a system, don't we, where at 16 there are effectively
Mm,
channels by which young people are then taken in one direction or another. It's
yeah,
sometimes in the same institution, sometimes not. And of course,
yeah,
at 18 with higher education, effectively all universities select on the basis of.
They do, yes,
So,
yes. But you don't want to start me on that, because I've got I don't. I agree with you, and I have my own. I think, yeah, but let's not go to Russell Group and selection and all,
well,
because we will honestly.
we could be here some time, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, can
yeah,
I
yeah.
ask, what's the difference between selection at 16 and 18 and selection at 11? Is there,
Right.
does age,
Yeah.
is that a key factor?
Oh, I really, yeah, I feel very strongly about this. Everyone, I just invite anyone who's listening, the one listener out there, Carl, whatever, just remember what you were like at 10.
Mm.
I remember at 10 and 11. Okay, you are not formed. You are still, I mean, what's so sad is at that age, you're still so curious about the world. Anything is possible. I mean, some of us know we're a bit more booky, or we're a bit more doughy with our handsy, or whatever it is, or a bit more nifty with our feet and it's footy, whatever. But
Yeah.
on the whole, there's still all the world open to you at 10.
Mm.
When it comes to schooling, we start to kind of cut choices off now. A good
Mm.
comp, by the way, doesn't do that, but that's another story about what makes a good comp. But you
Yeah.
get your chances and your choices cut down
Mm.
once you get to secondary school now. But at least at 16, I think there's a feeling I'm better at this. I enjoy this subject. I feel happy doing this subject. I'm confident in this subject. And that,
Mm.
you've matured just that bit more, and you start to feel where you might be better, what direction might be better. I made complete mistake, by the way. I thought I was going to do medicine at 16.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I made, but it doesn't matter. I got it right, but I'm just saying the irony is it doesn't always go right. And then at 18, of course, again, well, that's another story and another interest of mine. I
Mm.
don't think we have really good careers support and help in schooling, but that's very patchy, and it is another discussion for another day. So, but I do think at 16 and then again at 18, it's progressive. We do mature a bit. We have our tastes and feelings. Look at the way we develop as teenagers, the
Mm.
passions you develop as a teenage. I don't know about you, but
Mm.
it could be guitar, it could be music, it could be sport, it could be art, it could be cooking, it could be reading, whatever. That all starts happening in your teenage years. Of course, you're going to have a nicer, clearer
Mm.
idea about which direction you'd like to go. And I would argue, and I thank the comp where I was educated for my sixth form,
Mm.
I would argue that a good comp will allow a young person to make those choices. They will
Mm.
explore and find the things they're good at, things they didn't even know they were good at in that kind of environment. And a good comp will do that. Now, I was blessed.
Mm.
I was privately educated
Mm.
for a variety of reasons.
Mm.
We parted ways. But
Yeah.
my comp, my God, honestly, can I just quick? I did a
Please,
bit of car.
please.
I did a bit of car mechanics. I did a bit of silver work.
Very good.
I did community gardening for the old people's place down the road. I
Excellent.
debated. I learned art history. I did a bit of town planning. We got all these gorgeous introductions, as well as 3 A levels and then 2 for various reasons, as well
Wow.
as A levels, A levels.
Yeah.
I came out of that school. I swear. I mean, I used to hang out in the art room and the music room. I was doing A levels.
Yeah.
My mates were from all walks of life. And believe me,
Mm.
I'm embarrassed to tell you this, and it's a ghastly story, but it's true. I hadn't actually mixed with anyone who wasn't middle class, and some of
Mm.
them very upper middle class, until I got to my comp. I'd never mixed with people. It's
Mm.
disgusting, isn't it? Ridiculous.
I mean, it's a shame that situation arises for most certainly.
Yeah. You
And what
frame
you're
it better than me. Yeah. Yeah.
not at
Nice
all.
of you.
What I think you're saying is that you were all the better for that
Oh
experience.
God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
hung out with musicians, and yet these wonderful musicians were also some of them doing A levels and some of them not. I remember there was some of them doing things, that were they're more applied. I can't remember the exams, I'll be honest with you, what they were, the qualifications in those days. But what was lovely was I met people who opened my eyes. I got interested in music. I got interested in art. I would never, because I was going to be this academic person, the A-level person, I would never have met that. I also, don't laugh, but I got really interested. I still have a bit of a thing about cars,
Mm.
but I'm so grateful for having looked in an engine and fiddled around. It wasn't brilliant, but I did enjoy it. I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, you don't have to excel at everything to get something.
No, that's exactly so. And gardening for the local old people's home was just the wonderful feeling of doing it with your mates and also meeting some people who, were much older and loved conversation, bit of a chat, you know what I mean? Sort of
Yeah.
stuff. School, it was lovely. When I
Yeah.
look back, I feel blessed I ended up there. I
Yeah.
think, wow, 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 wow is all I can say. And of course, it shaped your life. It shaped my values, everything for later on. And just my interest, my thirst, my enthusiasm for
Mm.
everybody, whatever you are. Don't
Mm.
laugh, but if a plumber comes in to help me out, I love them. I love talking to people about what they do, why they do it, how they're doing it. I find
Yeah.
everyone interesting, and I think it's my comprehensive education because everybody is interesting, Carl. Everybody's talented.
Yeah. No, that's true. And curiosity and continuing to be
Yeah, yeah.
interested in everything is one of those things that keeps your mind young and
Oh,
keeps you
definitely.
very
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
engaged with the world. I mean, okay. What it seems the first half of the program principally has been about is first of all illustrating the moral case for phasing out a selective system at 11. What I would like to go on to in the second half of the show, because we're going to give the ads and the news another go, um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is the evidence base, because people might
Mm,
say, yes, all right, you're all great advocates, you've given a lot of passion, you clearly have, you really care about this, but let's
mm,
look at the evidence, because the evidence shows that. And then there'll be lots of people that say, it's the grammar schools are the engines of social mobility and so on. So we'll do
mm.
that after we come back, but now we're going to break
Okay,
for our word from our sponsors and then the latest educational news.
great
This show
stuff.
is
Thanks, Carl.
brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
Hey teachers, it's Tom here from Teachers Talk Radio, just dropping in to tell you about Teachers Talk Connect 2026. We are back with our amazing big annual CPD and networking extravaganza in Manchester. It's on Saturday, the 14th of March, and tickets are completely free for teachers. Just head over to ttradio.org/Connect 2026 to grab your ticket today. We can't wait to see you there.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
It's January and the weather hasn't been far from the thoughts of school leaders in recent days. According to the BBC, hundreds of schools missed reopening after the Christmas break as heavy snow and freezing temperatures caused disruption at the start of the week. Local news outlets reported widely on the issues, in particular in northern Scotland, Shetland and Orkney, where snowfall and drifting have meant schools did not reopen. Schools in parts of Wales and Northern Ireland have also been affected, with the list of schools not reopening growing over the course of Monday the 5th. The problems are likely to continue over the course of the first week back. Parents have been reminded that the deadline to apply for reception class places in September is rapidly approaching. The national deadline date is the 15th of January. According to local government data, more than 80% of families get their first choice of primary schools, but late applicants are less likely to be successful. A variety of local media outlets have featured advice for parents, including where to find application details, reminders to check individual admission policies for schools, and that the process is for children who turn 5 between the 1st of September 2026 and the 31st of August 2027. In Scotland, one council has defended its decision to break up schools for the Christmas break on December the 23rd. Highland Council scheduled the return for pupils on the 7th of January, but according to the Daily Record, this was later than many other local authorities, including those authorities in close proximity but under different control. Parents and staff have all reportedly expressed concern, but the council made it clear that decisions were not taken lightly and that term dates had been published well in advance, often several years. The Guardian reports that children in England will be offered vaccines in their own homes as part of a pilot scheme. It comes as research suggests 1 in 5 pupils now start primary school with no protection against diseases such as measles. The World Health Organization recommends that at least 95% of children should receive vaccine doses for each illness to achieve herd immunity. However, in England, none of the main childhood disease vaccines hit this target in the year 2024 to 25, with sharp differences in uptake across the country. The £2 million pilot scheme will begin in January, and health visitors will target families who are not signed up to a GP or face barriers such as language or childcare when needing to see a doctor. If the pilot is successful, it will roll out across England in 2027. Full details can be found online. Finally, the New Year's Honours list saw 57 people working in or with the school's community in England recognised for their work. Those receiving honours, including knighthoods, CBEs and British Empire medals, include MAT CEOs, head teachers, governors, volunteers and academics, as well as those working in children's social care and inclusion for local authorities. Full details of all the awards can be found on Schools Week. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
Okay, and welcome back to the Friday morning break show with me, Carl Smith, and I'm chatting today to Dr. Nuala Burgess, who is talking to us about an area that she's been passionate about over her research career on grammar schools and selection in education more generally, and whether it's time for grammar schools to be phased out. So, Nuala.
Yes.
We're looking at the evidence now.
Yeah.
So rather than directing you in one particular direction, what does the evidence base tell us about whether grammar schools are effective or not?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's very hard to explain to people that the only people who actually win in grammar schools are those who are already advantaged. But that is it in a nutshell. So they're great institutions for the middle classes because if you can buy tuition, private coaching, your child has a better chance of passing the 11 plus. And believe me, there is a lot of skill and there are a lot of techniques that are not in the usual primary school curriculum that you need to know about, that you need to be able to be practiced in to pass the 11 plus. So it isn't even a fair test. So buying tuition buys advantage. So the thing about the 11 plus is that it is such a hugely socially divisive test. And it's not just academically unfair, the way it's tilted, the way it's organized, who tends to score well in it and why. it's just so socially divisive, because we know that certain families are going to be, shall we say, more likely to be able to buy the advantage to do well. Their children will do better in it. And it's just not right. It's just not right in education. People say, oh, some people can pay for private schooling. It's another argument that I'm just talking about schools that are publicly funded. I don't know how we justify rejecting children to a publicly funded school. I just don't, especially if it's a local one. Do you see my point? I just don't know how we justify it. I can't do it.
No.
And also that the access is so horribly skewed in favor of those who can buy the advantage. There isn't much, yes, okay, you could say, okay, and people, I know they do this in universities like Oxford and Cambridge, they quote, oh, we have so many state school kids and they blah, blah, blah. Actually, when you unpick it, it tends to be more likely, I'm not saying all, those state school kids are in fact grammar school kids, but they are middle class grammar school kids. The working class kid who actually gets into grammar school, I'm not saying they don't actually exist, but it's a pretty small, proportion, Carl, and I think that's what we have to unpick. And then, of course, that if you don't get into a grammar school, in a certain area, the other schools have been depleted of resources and the natural mix of low, middle, high, whatever you want to call it, attainers, that makes a really good educational mix in education, and actually a more exciting environment to work in for kids and teachers. And you robbed it of a layer. So schools tend to be, and they take the local schools that have a grammar school near them that aren't selective, tend, of course, then to end up with more kids on free school meals, more pupil premium, more kids with SEND and all the other issues and additional needs, because grammar schools reject all those kids. So it's just so unfair, where do you start, honestly?
Well, let's start by, if I can, trying to capture what you've said. Again, in terms of the basic principles, what you're saying is here that if a school is funded by the public, then it should be benefit of the whole public, not a tiny subsection of it.
Again, so neatly put, but that is it. How do we justify this? You and I pay taxes. I don't want to pay for schools. I really resent paying for schools that reject children. I really do.
So
I would object to any publicly funded institution, be it a hospital who rejected an old person because, oh, you're not worth saving or what have you. No, taxes are these are for the public good, these schools. Schooling is for the public good.
Yeah.
I
what about those people who say, well, the public do still benefit because it's just about getting the right school for the right child and making that fit. So, if a child isn't as, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So a child is not as academically able. So therefore they need a different type of curriculum and a different style, but it's just as good as the more academically organized or oriented curriculum that they would receive in the grammar school. What about that argument? It's just horses for courses.
It's a nice idea, isn't it? It doesn't work though, does it? We all know that, especially in England, because of the way we love to classify, group, stream, but I would argue then, well, if you feel that strongly, why can't we put them all together in a comprehensive school and give everybody the chance to do everything? Because if you're that secure in that argument, you wouldn't be frightened of a school that allowed every kid to go in and find their own way and find their own natural instincts, aptitudes, abilities. Do you see my point?
Yeah, I do. So what you're saying
is you don't have to segregate to do it. You don't.
You can perfectly perfectly easily have in a comprehensive school, you're saying, different pathways and reflect different interests.
Absolutely.
And you can do that in a comprehensive education system but you don't have to actually send them to a different building completely.
Exactly so. And I am privileged having been to one. I know it was an exceptional and very progressive and very successful and very good comprehensive. But why not? Why not then? If it can be done, why not? That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, can I ask as well, as far as the evidence base is concerned, in those areas, Nuala, where there are grammar schools and so there is selection, in those areas, is it the case that young people that attend the what used to be called the secondary modern schools, do they do as well as young people who attend comprehensives in the rest of the country?
Well, this is now. There's a lot of data and a lot of stats and a lot of projects. And can I just give you one example and then let's go from there and you can question me more closely.
Yeah.
Because this is easier for me, and I know that overall more young people do better in non-selective education. And the only reason I could say I know this is that I did the research. I had to, but that's all right. And it was for Comprehensive Future and it was legitimate. I had to get FOI, requests in to get data for GCSEs. And it was absolutely clear to me that more young people did better in non-selective counties, i.e. they got more GCSEs, more passes in the non-selective county. It is true, I'm not going to deny this, that in the selective county, Buckinghamshire as it was, that more high attainers, there were more A stars, shall we say. But they were tiny. It was a tiny, tiny figure. It wasn't worth a whole educational system being decided on a tiny little group of kids who might get A stars. You mean you design an education system for their benefit only? And they are tiny in comparison. So that would be my answer to that, is that it has been shown, and I have looked at it myself and I have looked at the figures, and it is clear more young people do better in non-selective. And I don't understand why we wouldn't want that for our young people. You've got a better chance in a non-selective county. Why wouldn't you want that?
So, but this is really important, isn't it? What you're saying is that the evidence shows very clearly that standards overall are lower in authorities where there is a selective system than in
well, I didn't actually say that, Carl. I didn't actually say that.
I'm saying it, and you can correct me because it may be that. But that standards overall, as in the average standard, if you will, because the majority is lower. Notwithstanding that there are natural variations in area of the country, you're obviously going to get a difference in the the way that things work in inner cities and you
have to be careful because affluent Bucks has a slightly different sort of picture than, for example, Kent, selective Kent, but the tail is going to be longer. You've got more young people doing not so well in the selective counties, who are just more working class, disadvantaged working class, not just working class per se, but those who are from less affluent families. It's bigger. The proportion will be bigger. That's the thing.
Because it's then numerically a much greater number than when you take the average level of attainment across the whole of the area, it's going to be lower, isn't it?
But we have got variation, and we've got selective Trafford who likes to boast all their GCSE results and all the rest of it. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers for all of the areas, but generally speaking, absolutely yes.
So who would design, to take an analogy, who would design a health service which delivered poorer outcomes for the majority of people in order to serve very better outcomes for a very small section of the population? You wouldn't do it.
That's exactly my point. When I try and point this out to people. You're designing an education system that benefits a very small number of kids.
And only
And they
then,
are already advantaged. That's what really kills me. They've already got, most of them, pretty affluent backgrounds. I'm not saying all of them go skiing at Easter or whatever it is they do, but I'm just saying they're pretty comfortably off compared to a lot of young children. They don't need all the. Why are we designing an education system that benefits such a tiny, tiny proportion of kids? It's bonkers. It's bonkers.
So is this just still the historical legacy of an entrenched class system in our society?
Yeah, I honestly can't. Yeah, honestly, I know. Let's be honest. Yes, I do think that, and I now think it's become so heavily political. And this is another big bugbear for me, because middle class people have such power when it comes to voting, and they sharpest elbows and all the rest of it, that our own Labour Party are too scared to tackle this. I mean, for goodness sakes, they were the ones who introduced comprehensive education with circular, 1966, 67 and all that. I mean, and yet they are frightened. And I know Harold Wilson actually went on record saying that was his one failure, that he didn't get rid of the grammar schools. I've got the quote somewhere. He actually said, if I could go back, the one thing I should have done, and they should have done it. And Tony Blair, forgive me, I'm getting political now.
No.
He had the majority. Why not?
Yeah. So why now do you think the present government doesn't seize the moment? Because they actually, to be fair, have addressed the issue of private education, haven't they?
I know, interesting. Yeah.
They've said, okay, you've got a right to send your child to a private school if you wish, but private schools operate as private businesses, in effect. They don't make a profit necessarily, but they operate as a business. So therefore, they should pay VAT in the same way as other businesses. And they've tackled that. And as far as I can see, that's gone down pretty well with most people. That isn't the reason why Labour has been struggling in the polls, is my understanding. So therefore, what is Labour afraid of? Because
there's a lot. It's a lot of middle class votes.
But do you think that Labour's vote would actually go down if they phase grammar schools out?
I tell you, not if they invested properly in every school, so that we had equity. We had a decent, democratically done education system, and every kid got a decent. No, of course it wouldn't. But they'd have to show. That's the thing. You don't just strip something away. You've got to show real purpose, real vision, and they haven't got that. I'm sorry, let's not get political, but that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to invest in your education system properly. And I mean, I look to Alberta for that, where you have school councils that are democratically elected. They, not politicians. Not politicians. And that's another issue, isn't it? Politicians who know nothing about education run our education system as a business, but they're not actually educators. Can you imagine if we sent in me? I'll go and consult in my local doctor's surgery. I don't know anything about it, but I've got a model here, so I'll look at your tonsils, darling. You know what I mean? But seriously, it would take a radical, and I think we'd have to look at perhaps some regional organisation. We'd need school councils that were voted in, not your MPs. There's a lot of things you could do, and then you really invest in your education system, and we don't need them. We just don't need grammar schools.
No. But I'm interested in this.
I'll tell you something, Carl. Sorry to interrupt you there. It's lazy. It's lazy to keep grammar schools. It shows no imagination, no vision for what we could do for young people. And the idea that you care about young people and every child matters is complete rubbish. They're not really doing what matters for the children, for the young people in our schools. It's all about institutional gain and competition between maths and all the rest of it. No, it's lazy to keep grammar schools. It shows you haven't got the courage or the vision.
Really interesting. So we've got somebody who was trying to join the show actually, and sorry,
right.
I'm very interested. If you put your question in, Goku, we're happily to address it there. So I'm really interested in this because it seems to me there is an opportunity for change, and the present government clearly would see itself as making inclusivity a priority, and
Right.
raising the or tackling the level of
Yeah.
social inequality, and improving social mobility. Surely the government would agree that it stood for all those things. So given
Well, you
that,
tell me. I'd like to know. I'd love the chance to talk to Bridget Phillipson and people. I would
well,
love to.
I don't want to get into any political comments myself, but
No, 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 no.
I would say that Bridget Phillipson has made it quite clear that she's passionate about social mobility, and that she very much is on the side of helping those who, have the greatest disadvantage. But it's not side, is it?
Mm,
It's everybody's on the side of everybody.
mm.
But
What, can I say, Carl, why are we using the phrase social mobility? Why can't we just educate children to bring out the very best? What's this about social mobility?
mm,
It's a silly
well, quite.
phrase, really, isn't it?
It is really, because it also suggests that there are winners and losers and so forth. But
And that you mustn't be working class. Why can't I don't get it. I
mm,
don't get it. Why do we have to keep tagging social mobility on? And that apparently decides the success of a school. It's nonsense.
well,
I think, yeah, sorry.
I think we're a little bit obsessed probably in this country with questions of class, and it's still
Yeah.
our psyche, isn't it? But it seems to me that the political argument, that actually they would lose votes, this present government would lose votes if
Yeah.
they phased out grammar schools, is a pretty tenuous one. I don't see much evidence that would be the case. I think a lot of people said, oh, they'll lose votes because they've introduced VAT on private education, and
Yeah.
actually there's no evidence
Mm.
that that's been the case, none at all. I suspect
But it's
rather
also
that
how you, can I just say, yeah, you'd have to phase out the grammar schools properly, carefully, with parental involvement. I wouldn't just say, right, that's it, they're over. I mean,
no,
that would be a vote loser. Seriously, there are ways of doing this. There are
mm,
models where we could gently go into different areas. We pilot perhaps in one selective area, and we work with people together. We work with educators, we work with school heads, we work with parents, we work with local councillors, and we do it together. We do it together. And, so that there is a buy-in as much as possible. So it needn't be a brutal thing. It could be a phasing out. But we need investment in all schools.
yeah,
It's not right that you take away grammar schools and then deny parents and kids in that area decently decently funded schools. You understand?
yeah.
Phasing out grammar schools sounds really frightening until we think, well, hang on a minute. How would we do this intelligently, compassionately?
So in terms of the exact mechanism then, Nuala, I understand that a little bit more power or leeway is being granted to local authorities over the next year or two. And would that be possibly an opportunity? Because I know local ballots, in theory, can be held and almost never are. And those local
Mm,
ballots
mm.
then, grammar schools could be ended through that route. They could be phased out through that route.
Well,
But
they're all, yeah. We won't go
go
there
on.
because they're really badly run. They're all done on paper, and it's nonsense. It's not real because it's such a ridiculous process to navigate. But sorry, Carl, carry on. You're going.
No. So that process as it currently stands is not really going to change anything. But what I'm suggesting is that perhaps by changing the mechanisms by which consultation on grammar schools is are organised, possibly
Yeah.
could you see that as a mechanism for change?
If that regional or local overseeing was independent of the council. Because the problem is with our country is that then it's Labour and then it's Tory and then it's Reform and then it's Lib Dem and then it's Green. And that really doesn't help our schools. We need an independent, say, regional or local body. I'd say school councils. Let's look to Alberta. I'm just giving you an example. I'm not saying it's the only one. But then it's independent of the political structures that go on, because otherwise we will never get anywhere. And they are responsible for admissions. And they are, I suggest perhaps we do local elections for them, as you would councillors, as you would, and people who are parents, people who are educators, school heads. It could be an MP. It could be an MP on there, by the way. I'm not saying they can't be, but I would really, really favour that. But they have to, if we're going to do local admissions, if you leave it to councils, honestly, we will be back to square one with all the, certain councils who were so strapped for cash and couldn't do this and all the, it would be a nightmare. So they have to be independent if it's to be local or regional admissions.
I mean, two things strike me as you're talking there, Nuala. One is that we used to have that system. We had education boards. When education was first introduced into this in the late 19th century, it was organised by education boards that were elected. So we had that system, and we seem to have lost it. And secondly, the vast majority of the country that moved from grammar school selective education to comprehensive schools between 1965 and 1980 did it perfectly well and easily. It wasn't hard to do.
No. Funny that, isn't it? And most of our children are still being educated in, I don't know if you can call them comps, but they're non-selective schools and doing very well, thank you. Weird, isn't it? It's just 3 selective counties. Apparently, I don't know if it's something in the water, Carl, or they've got, particular issues in there. But why those 3 counties have to be selective? They are anomalies. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Well, let me put this to you then, Nuala, and I know you don't have any way of answering this in a scientific way, but so let's say there is a national referendum on the question of ending grammar schools. Okay, so the whole country is asked: should we end grammar schools? Should we phase them out, or should we not? What do you suppose the public would say?
Can I just say something first? We'd have to do what Scotland did with Brexit. You'd have to educate the public first on the consequences of the 11 plus and grammar schools, what it does when you have a grammar school in your area. Then we'd do it. And I don't think for 1 minute that they would vote for grammar schools. Why would you? A school that rejects your kid? No way. Why? It's a lottery whether they get in or not, The
majority of the population, I believe, and are you aware of any polls that have been taken on this? The majority of the population would favour phasing out grammar schools.
We don't have a poll, and the problem is that most people are oblivious to them.
Yeah.
So we can't, the idea of, if you were to try and run a poll in somewhere, they'd say, but what are they? You'd have to educate them first, you understand? Yeah. So we'd have to say, do you think selection for schools is good, blah, blah. And they'd need a proper, public education program before you held a referendum like that. Sure. So there isn't a poll. No, there isn't.
Well, it'd be interesting if one could be run, couldn't it? Sorry, no, I was just going to say, it'd be interesting if one could be run. And there are a number of polling organisations out there. I'm not going to name one in particular, but if anybody who's listening to this podcast is involved in any way with a polling organisation, why not run a poll on this question?
But could we please have a proper discussion, a fair and impartial explanation of what grammar schools do, pros and cons, if you like, or something? Because people just voting, as we saw with Brexit, you've got to be careful there. We do want people to know what they're doing yes or no to.
Well, yes, in my school, I always say you can have any opinion you want, providing it's informed.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it's providing it's mine. Sorry, I anticipated.
No. That's a Brian Clough quote, I think. Not providing it's mine. You can have any opinion you want, providing it's an informed opinion. But
absolutely,
we all have a responsibility in whatever aspect we have an opinion on to at least find out a little bit about it, to find out what evidence there is out there, and therefore what that suggests. Because
there are an awful lot of
people without evidence is hopeless, isn't it?
Yeah, and there are an awful lot of people out there who really do not know what the 11 plus is, or genuinely thought it went out with the ark.
Yeah, I think so. And they don't need to know because it doesn't operate
Quite,
in their area, so it's no interest to them.
quite,
Yeah.
quite.
So okay. Now I'll have to wrap things up at this point,
Yeah,
Nuala, but
yeah,
in
yeah.
short, you're leaving one message for everybody that's going to be listening to this show or the podcast. One message, loud and clear. Can you give it now, please?
Oh, I wish you'd prepared me for this, but I would say that
Sorry.
but the comprehensive schools, non-selective, comprehensive, inclusive schools are fairer for everybody. Everybody benefits from a good, local, comprehensive, inclusive school. There's no need to segregate. You can have it all in a comprehensive school.
Yeah, no, that sums it up perfectly, I think. Nuala, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Your passion, your expertise is wonderful to hear and invaluable for everybody listening to this. I do hope that people debate this issue rather more. I think it's one that needs debating. I think it
does.
needs airing, doesn't it?
It does. And the problem is it doesn't get debated, Carl. It doesn't.
No.
But that's another story. You'll have to end it. But it doesn't get debated. And that's why it's being left, like this dirty secret, England's dirty secret. We still have selective school. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
but it does need airing. Yeah.
Sorry, Nuala. If there's one thing that you said that really struck in my mind is that as far as we are aware, England is the only developed country in the world that operates in a selective system at the age of 11, based
10,
on
mostly 10.
Well, 10.
Most kids are 10. Yeah.
At the age of 10, based on a test, an arbitrary test on a child's intelligence. At that point,
it's not their intelligence.
No,
Please
not
don't
their
say
intelligence. Sorry, I'll correct myself.
Aptitude
Please.
fast test. Yeah. Skill test.
It's
Still
what they know at that point in order to pass the test. It's not their intelligence.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Carl. I'm sorry.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's nothing to do with intelligence. But okay. So we're the only country in the world that has a system. Now, either we are right and everybody else in the world is wrong, or possibly we've got it wrong. Well, interesting stuff.
What are the chances?
I'll leave people who are listening to make up their own mind. But I hope that they've found it interesting today. I hope that they've they've taken on board that this issue does need airing a lot more. It does need discussion a lot more. And if they really do believe that it's right to be phasing out grammar schools, make the case.
And join us. Have a look at Comprehensive Future and learn about it. We've done a lot of work. We are the only group. Comprehensive Future is the only group that campaigns to phase out the 11 plus, and we really are. I'm sorry to say, but we are experts. We have people who come to us, journalists and universities, asking us for anything. We do have the research. We do have the data.
Sure. Wonderful to talk to you, Nuala.
And you, take care.
I will. The final thing to say is thank you so much for joining the podcast or show today. My name's Carl Smith. This is the Friday Morning Break Show. I do hope that you were able to catch other programs on Teachers Talk Radio. There's some really, really great stuff out there. Don't forget our Points of View show, which happens on a Sunday morning. But for now, thank you for listening and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.